Hello everybody and welcome back to Cooking with Frenchy. Cooking and baking made easy. I hope you had a great start of the year, and I'm letting you know today we are going to talk about the King's Cake, or in French, la galette des rois, therefore the crown. So before you go anywhere, please don't forget to subscribe. Check the description of on the video. There's always my recipe and few links there to other recipes. So la galette des rois was invented about 700 years ago. From the Roman Empire, it came to France, and it was the cakes that reflects the three wise kings when Jesus was born. So it's a very biblical story. However, in France, it's celebrated on the 6th of January, but also nowadays, you can have la galette des rois during the entire month of Jan. So this is a very, very kind of sweet, almondy and made of puff pastry dessert. It's very traditional. I'm going to show you how to do it from A to Z, from scratch. So please enjoy that recipe and let's catch up after this. Hello again, David here. It's time to make your own puff pastry. If you are not making your own puff pastry, just go through directly, fast forward to the 8-minute mark. However, if you do, it's good to do. It's a beautiful pastry. It's quite challenging, but it's nice. So mix your flour and butter together, and with the tip of your finger, just crumble and press that butter against the flour. Puff pastry, homemade. It's got nothing to do with anything you find on the market. It's beautiful. Just add the vinegar and the water and give it a quick mix. You can be rough with this pastry. That's what we call the détrempe. It's the base of the puff pastry. We're gonna give it a little bit of a workout, but not too much. The more you work a pastry, the more you work the elasticity of the gluten. And we don't want too much elasticity. It's not like a croissant dough or bread dough. So just gonna bind all the ingredients together. And I wanted to show you by hand for the people who doesn't have a mix machine at home. Show you that it's possible. So we just give it a quick 2 minutes workout, and we are going to let it rest. It's very important that you rest it, and I rest it about an hour in the fridge at least. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Cookies with Frenchy. We're gonna cut it a little bit. That helps to roll out later on. It's a traditional way to do it. Bit of plastic wrap in the fridge, an hour, 2 hours, 6 hours, up to you. We're going to prepare the butter. So we try to have the butter out of the fridge a little bit and make it soft and pliable. If it's too soft, it has a tendency to ooze out from the pastry. It gets sticky everywhere, and I must say I did struggle a little bit because it was 34 degrees that day. It was a very hot day when I made that pastry. So I'm trying to make a rectangular shape, not too big, but just of the same thickness. The important tip, it's the consistency or the texture of your butter should be the same as your pastry. That's a good indication. I'm going to create a little rectangle shape here. And by the way, that's what we call the English method. It's a little rectangular shape. I'm going to check with my butter if it's the top fold. Just goes on top. It didn't, so I need to roll it a little bit more. Put the butter at the bottom, fold on top. You can see if you got few meals on the side, and just pinch. Just pinch the pastry a little bit, and that will allow the butter to stay within the layers of the dough. And all the time here, what I'm going to do is to create a rectangle shape, a long one, work towards me, and always correct it. So always give it in a good shape, always keeping that shape. Glad wrap, 30 minutes in the fridge, take out the pastry off the fridge, leave it for 5 minutes outside, and we do it again. Exactly the same. So what we did is to give it a fold and a turn. And I'm taking my time because I wanted to show you all the fold and the turns. So you will see I'm going to grab the top, like so, the top bit of the pastry and the second third and put it on top. And I turn it about 90 degrees. Just like this. Glad wrap, fridge, 30 minutes. Take it out of the fridge. Leave it for 5 minutes on the bench. Don't forget to always put some flour on your bench, just to make sure it doesn't stick too much. We're gonna work turn 3, so that's a different angle, and as you see with my hand, I always try to keep that rectangular shape. Very, very important. I'm going to grab the top fold. So 1/3 on the top, fold it in, and 1/3 at the bottom, fold it in, and give it a turn. Clockwise, always clockwise. This pastry needs 6 turns, and that's why a lot of people do not do the puff pastry, because it's kind of time consuming. It takes a lot of time, but the result at the end, it's worth it. It's the same principle. Do another turn here. Here I doubled the turn because the pastry was quite cold. I leave it overnight, 6 or 8 hours. So it really helped me to do so. I'm gonna brush that flour excess. It's very important that you don't have too much flour between the layers. It makes the pastry a little bit heavier and doesn't raise as much. And yeah, we're nearly there. So remember, roll out the pastry. Always make sure it's in good shape. Take your top third, fold it in, take the second third, fold it in, rotate off 90 degrees clockwise. So we need to raise the pastry because we work the elasticity of it, and that's why your pastry shrink all the time. And we don't want that to shrink, and we don't want to force it. If we force it, the butter is going to ooze out and we're going to break the layers. Rotate in the fridge. And now I'm going to work on the frangipane, the almond cream. So I left my butter outside, so it's quite soft. As I said, it was a warm day. And I'm going to add some sifted icing sugar to it. Mix it well, make sure it's well combined. It needs to be a creamy texture. We don't want that too runny, too soft. You will know later why. Now I can add the almond meal. And again, I combine well all the ingredients. Then I will add the flour. You can use the frangipane or almond cream for many other recipe tarts, generally fruit tarts. Here I add some white rum, an egg, combine everything well, and meanwhile my pastry has rested, so I cut half of the pastry, beautiful layers, keep half aside. I'm gonna work on the bottom layer. I'm just gonna create a square. I'm not trying to do a round piece here, but I'm aware that I need about 4 to 5 millimeters thickness at the end. So I don't want to roll out too much the pastry, just enough. I'm using a plate of 27 centimeters. I'm going to cut right at the edge of the plate, remove the plate, keep the leftover pastry for sausage roll or something else another day. Take a tray, put the pastry onto it, perfect. Making a quick egg wash, milk and egg. Little tip for you to how to fill cleanly a piping bag and deposit cleanly the frangipane onto the pastry. Just like this, ready to go. So I got my tray, my pastry. I'm going to put the egg wash just at the edge of my bottom layer. Don't put it on the side because it will reduce the capability of the pastry to raise due to the cooking process. Pipe roughly, I didn't try to be neat here, just a rough pipe, just close to about 1.5 centimeters of the edge of the pastry. Put all the cream, and here my little toy, it's a frog. Now I can work on my top layer. Same, however, I'm going to use the same plate but go a little bit wider, about 2 centimeters wider. This will allow the amount of cream to be covered as well as reaching the edge of my bottom layer. If I did both of the same size, I would be in trouble. My top layer would be shorter than my bottom layer. So look, I go wide outside and that will be just enough. Bit more egg wash to make sure we seal. The egg wash is here to seal the pastry. So with my finger I'm just going to seal and try to reshape that cream around. Remove the excess of flour. I'm going to press a little bit harder to make sure my filling inside the frangipane is sealed. You can see the traces of my finger. I'm going to trim. I'll put a little bit more egg wash, and that's for the finished decoration and presentation, as the egg wash is going to make my pastry a little bit more golden and brown. Create a little pattern around with your knife, little pattern on top of your galette, like this, just like scoring. Don't go all the way inside it, you don't want to burst it. And I'm going to prick some little holes as well to make sure the steam is going out and my pastry is not bursting. This needs to rest at least again for 30 minutes an hour prior baking, and here we go. Bake in the oven for 20 minutes at 200 degrees and 30 minutes at 160 degrees. Once it's done, let it cool down. I let it cool down for 10 minutes and I apply my cold syrup on top of it, and that's gonna give it a very nice shiny little glaze. This is very traditional here, how I learned when I was 17 years old in the pastry shop. Look at those layers of pleasure. I have a motto that's there's no pleasure without butter. La galette they were generally served warm, so you could serve it straight away. Nevertheless, you can keep it for 5 days and warm it up in the oven, please, not in the microwave. Doesn't do the same. Microwave will soften the pastry. We want that pastry to be a little bit crisp. Make sure you get your king of the day. And look at that. Beautiful dessert. Thank you. Welcome back. I hope you tried this recipe. It's beautiful. It's buttery, it's flaky. Puff pastry is challenging. However, it's worth every effort and time you put into it. So, look at this. Look at that. Bon appetit. See you next time. Check out the other recipe. Subscribe. Bye.